S page of your copies of your downloads, and we were speaking about the three types of levels of Kesser, the three types of levels of Kaddish. We spoke about there is Kesser that's higher than Chachma, Kesser of Zeir Ampin, Kesser of Malchus. These are the three times Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish. These correspond to where it says ונקדשתי בתוך בני ישראל. B'toich b'nei Yisrael is talking about what's going on inside of us, inside our heart, inside our avodah. And in response to that, there's two levels of Kaddish that come from above, two levels of holiness that come from above, which is the Torah holiness, which is in the inner part of the world. Then there's the holiness that reaches down all the way to mitzvahs and to the gashmis of the world. And then we started speaking about that the Medrash speaks about this, deriving this, the Alter Rebbe says that this is derived from the different psukim in the Parshas Kedoshim, that the king has three crowns. One he takes from, that the people of his country gave him three crowns, the Malachim give the Eibishter three crowns. One he takes for himself, two he puts on his children's head. And we said that there is different ways of learning it out from the psukim. The Alter Rebbe learns it out from the fact that it says Ki Kaddish Ani at the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim. It says Ki Kedoshim Tiyu Ki Kaddish Ani. So that first one, Ki Kaddish Ani, is talking about the crown that Hashem Himself takes. And then later in the Parshas Kedoshim, it says Viskadishtem V'Yisum Kedoshim. That's talking about the two crowns that he placed on his children. But in the Medrash, it's a little bit different. Even though they're talking about the same event, the actual psukim that the Medrash uses is that the Kedoshim Tiyu, that's talking about the two crowns that he placed, the crowns they put on the head of his, the Kedoshim Tiyu that says next to the word Ki Kaddish Ani at the beginning, that is the crowns that he places on his children. And the word, I'm sorry, excuse me for a second. Essentially, the question is, which one is in the calculation? It says in the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim, it says Kedoshim Tiyu Ki Kaddish Ani. According to the Alter Rebbe, the Ki Kaddish Ani is the emphasis, and according to the Medrash is that this is the Kedoshim Tiyu Viskadishtem V'Yisem Kedoshim. And then the Rebbe said, to be able to explain this discrepancy or this difference of interpretation of the psukim, even though they reached the same conclusion, that the king, the Eibishter, took one crown, the children took two crowns, to be able to explain that, we brought in what the Tzemach Tzedek says. That the Tzemach Tzedek says that how can the Medrash even say Yachol Kamoini? Would you think that you can have and wear the crown like you could be as holy as I? So the Medrash says that you might think that there might be such a level of kedusha that a yid can attain, and Tzemach Tzedek says that this is tamur. This is a wonder how you could say such a thing, that the yid should be considered like the Eibishter in his kedusha. The Alter Rebbe on the other hand says that even though the avodah of tzaddikim, the avodah of mitzvahs, it's not possible to reach the level of Yachol Kamoini, but the avodah of tshuva, which is the theme in Parshas Nitzavim, as we'll talk about later on in the Maimer, the avodah of tshuva, it is possible to have the level of reaching higher than, say, the Rishtalshlus, at a level of that it is Yachol Kamoini. It is like the Eibishter. So now the Rebbe is going to bring this idea of the Alter Rebbe's Maimer in Parshas Nitzavim and explain it, how it fits in with what we spoke before, that Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish is the level of the higher totally, and then there's the Kaddish, Kaddish that comes down in a way of Torah and mitzvahs, And then he goes to get contrasted to what we just now learned from the Tzemach Tzedek. So again, we're holding on page test, 5th page of the downloads, line 5, up almost at the top of the page. The Rebbe says, seemingly when you to say, the advantage of Baal Tshuva over Tzaddikim Gemurim that we said before, that because a person is in a level of Baal Tshuva, he could reach even to be Yachal Kamayni, he could have the Kedusha of the Eibishter. Though by tzaddikim, there's also the avoid of 3 times kaddish. We don't say that 3 times kaddish is only something that's shaykh to Baal Tshuva. We said before, it's the inner part of the heart, Torah, it's mitzvahs, the kaddish aleph, who kaddish ani. We've said already before also that the first kaddish is that I am kaddish, kedushasi l'mayla mikdushascha. My holiness is higher than your kedusha. So on the one hand, Alter Rebbe is saying that the level of Ki Kaddish Ani can only be attained by Baal Tshuva. On the other hand, we say all 3 Kaddishes is said by the whole Klal Yisrael, including Tzaddikim. So how does that fit? He says in line 9, Hu Shagila the Kaddish Aleph Tzaddikim U'Ba'ifim the Allah L'Mayla. The revelation of the first Kaddish by Tzaddikim is in such a way of elevation and ascending above. They yearn and desire to go out of their being, to become part of his holiness. And then this afterwards comes out, and afterwards it manifests itself as a the only time or the only aspect that comes out down here below is not the Kaddish Aleph. The Kaddish Aleph is not possible for it to come down. The Kaddish Aleph is causing him to go out of himself. Like we said before, that's why the avoida of the Keser that's on top of Chachma has to do with the ונקדשתי בתוך b'nei Yisrael. That's the burning and yearning of the heart. When does the heart yearn? When it appreciates that's totally beyond. So, but the only level that comes down in is the level of the 2nd and 3rd Kaddish, which is the level of Torah mitzvahs. That comes down to this level. It doesn't cause a leaving of the level behind. That's the way it is by tzaddikim. With Baal Tshuva, but on the other hand, Baal Tshuva, based on what Alter Rebbe just said, that we brought from the Ma'av and Parshat Tzavim, Gam Kaddish Ha'alef U'Ba'ifim Da'amshach L'Mata. Also, the first Kaddish is in such a way of being drawn down here below. So that's the Chiddush of Baal Tshuva. The Chiddush of Baal Tshuva that we're saying that he could be on the level of Kiddush of above, even though it's higher than Yisrus Asata. Yisrus Asata only reaches to a certain level, but it cannot reach to the level of Kedushasi. That is only the Avodah of Torah mitzvahs. But when we have the Avodah of Tshuva, we could reach even Kedushasi. But how do we reach Kedushasi? Not like by a tzaddik, that he feels it's above it, and he just wants to go out of his mitzvah, but like the level of the Baal Tshuva has it, that even the Kaddish HaAleph, not just the Beis and Gimel, come down to him. So that's why he can be Kedushasi. He can be that it's my Kedusha, my holiness, that the holiness of the Eibishter becomes his holiness as well. So the Rebbe says in line 15, the Rebbe is going to ask 2 questions. One is a practical question, one is a contradiction. Line 15, we did understand. How is it possible that the holiness of that I am holy can come down here below? How is that possible? It can come down below. Fine, we explained that that's the way it is. That the Baal Tshuva has that level of beyond. But we said no Yisrus Asata can reach it. So if no Yisrus Asata can reach that level, we said before, and that's why tzaddikim can't reach it with our avodah, what is it about Baal Tshuva that can reach it? That's one question. But a more powerful question that Rebbe asks is recalling what the Tzemach Tzedek said. Will be Yisrael in a movement even more so it's not understood. We brought down from the Tzemach Tzedek in Torah that even thinking and considering a possibility, a havamina, that it should be like me is a wonder. We said that it's tamua. How can the Medrash even consider? How can the Torah even consider Yachol Kamaini? And therefore has to tell you, no. Ki Kadosh Ani Kedushas Ilamayim Kedushaschem. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, how do you even ask such a question? And here the Alter Rebbe says, not only he considers it, he says it is that way. The Torah is brought down also, according to the conclusion, that through tshuva we draw down the actual kedusha of the Kaddish Ani, the kedusha see my holiness that we were saying before was higher than your kedusha. Seemingly, these are opposite ideas. These are completely two extremes. The Tzemach Tzedek says it's not even possible to consider it. We need to even understand how can there even be given any consideration that a person's kedusha can be like the Eibishter's kedusha. The Alter Rebbe concludes that the Baal Tshuva can have the kedusha like the Eibishter. So how do we reconcile the two? The Rebbe says in line 22, we could say the explanation this is, the Tzemach Tzedek wrote that this is a wonder. It doesn't mean that it's impossible, but rather intellectually it doesn't fit. The intention of this is there is no room for this intellectual. That's what it means it's a wonder. Logically, this makes no sense. And not just our logic, human logic, or even Torah logic the way it's down here, but also gam loy b'chachma shalom ma'ila. Even not in the chachma of above, it also makes no sense. In the chachma of the highest level of Seder Ishtalshlus, the chachma ilah, it also makes no sense. The kivin shall be Seder Ishtalshlus, since according to the chain order of the descension, this will establish the way Hashem's wisdom decreed it to be. Nivrahu be'ein haroich. Top of page Yud, the created being is incomparable to the creator. Therefore, it's to say that my kedusha and the Eibishter's kedusha are identical. It's not even possible to have a hava mina, a possibility of saying that it's like me. But in comparison to the essence of the Eibishter, it's not possible. Any types of limitations and boundaries. Who will tell them what to do? No, we can limit the Eibishter. So now we're going to answer also the first question that we asked. How is it that a Baal Tshuva can be combined? Since through Tshuva, we reach the essence of the Oinos that's beyond Chachma. How do we see that we reach the essence of the Oinos that's beyond Chachma? We see this in a different Maimer Chazal. It's known the question that they asked Torah, what should the person that sinned, what should he do? So the Torah said one thing. They asked Chachma what he should do. Chachma said a different thing. When they asked Hashem, Amar Yasa Tshuva is Kaperlot. So he said, let him do tshuva and he'll be forgiven. He will atone. This response to do tshuva, it came specifically from Hashem that's beyond the chachma of Torah. So tshuva has a special connection with Hashem himself, higher than Seder Ishtalshlus. So from Seder Ishtalshlus' perspective, it's tamua. Seichel, it's tamua. Chachma law says it makes no sense that a nivra can be like the Boida. Yachol Kamaini could be like the Eibishter. No, it's not even a possibility to even ask that question like the Tzemach Tzedek said. But when you reach tshuva has to do with Hashem's very essence, like we see from the response that the Eibishter was the one that said to do tshuva, not Chachma, not Torah. Therefore, since tshuva is derived from Hashem's essence, lachein dafkai adei tshuva yachol kamaini. So therefore, through tshuva, it could be like me. Then the Rebbe says that if you read the simple reading of the pasuk, not the way the Medrash says, the Medrash makes a whole big thing in the pasuk. It says, "Kedoshim to you," that you have to be holy. Comes the Medrash and says, Yachol Kamayni. You think that you could be like me? So he says, no. Talmud Loima Ki Kadosh Ani, it comes to the pasuk, it says that I am holy. Kedushasi Lamaila Mikdushaska. My holiness is higher than your holiness, says the Abish. That's the way the Medrash takes the pasuk. But if we just read the words of the pasuk, the way point 1 follows and is followed by point 2, it seems to say an opposite message. Kedoshim Tiyu, you should be holy, because Kadosh Ani. So we're not making a separation and saying there's your holiness, there's my holiness, just the opposite. We are comparing them. Let's see it inside. Line 10. From the simple meaning of the pasuk, you shall be holy because I am holy. When the pasuk says I am holy, that's the reason, that's the explanation. Why should you be holy? Because I am holy. So that means they're really connected, not that they're separated. That indicates that the command that you shall be holy, that indicates that the Kiddush of the Eden needs to be similar to the holiness of the Eibishter. How is that possible? So, but based on what the Alter Rebbe said in Parshas Nitzavim and the explanation about Tshuva that the Rebbe just gave, because through the avoid of Kedusha of Tshuva, we can reach this holiness. And the Rebbe brings down something that the Rebbe often brings down. It's from the Ba'ir Naim, the Mitzvah Magi, the Lahoyer Ma'afirish B'Yachol Kamoini, and to note from the explanation that it is like, could be like me, Yachol Kamoini B'Nechusa, that it doesn't mean that the Medrash is asking a question. Yachol Kamoini, you would think it's like me. It's a statement. Yachol Kamoini, you could be like me, the Medrash is saying. That inner meaning of the phrase of the Medrash fits in what the Alter Rebbe says in Parshas Nitzavim, that through Tshuva one could reach all the way to have the Eibishter's Kedusha mind as well. Any questions before we go on? Okay, so now we're going to go on to Ois Hey. Now we had two interesting distinctions. We had two ways how to learn the idea of Yachol Kamoini, the Medrash's way or the Alter Rebbe's way in Likutei Torah Parshas Nitzavim. Either Yachol Kamoini is something that we are saying, no, it's not possible to be like the Eibishter's Kedusha, or there's like the Alter Rebbe explains that with Tshuva, we could be Yachol Kamoini. And also what we spoke about yesterday, about which psukim exactly do we derive the idea of the three crowns? Do we use the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim, Kedoshim Tiyu, and we drop the Ki Kodesh Ani? Or do we use, like the Alter Rebbe says, the words Ki Kodesh Ani, and we drop Kedoshim Tiyu? And this idea, the Rebbe is going to connect to the other. If we're saying that we could be like the Eibishter, so then we're going to use one pasuk. We're going to use the Ki Kodesh Ani. If we're saying we can't be like the Eibishter, so then we're going to leave out and we're going to go to Kedoshim Tiyu. Let's see it inside. So he says, I say, the two explanations about the psukim, that in them where it's hinted the two crowns that he put in onto his children's heads. Im nichol gam hapsukim gam pasuk kedoshim tiyu. Is it included also the pasuk where it says kedoshim tiyu? Is that also part of the crowns that he's putting on his head, or we're not including that? Or v'shnei perushim the Yachol Kamoini, or the two explanations in where it says that it can, if Yachol Kamoini means a question, a challenge? Could it be like me? Or does it mean Yachol Kamayni that it is like me? So it's clear that one is dependent upon the other. According to the explanation, that he could be like me. And I wonder that the Medrash says, you think it could be like me? HaKedusha, the Kedoshim Tiyu, Nichlales, B'Kedushaschem, Shalamayla Mikdushasi. When it says, the Kedoshim Tiyu, when it says, you will be holy, that is included in the Kedushashchem. I'm sorry, it's not Shalamayla. Shalamata Mikedushas. It's talking about Kedoshim to you. You should be holy. That's your Kedusha. And your Kedusha, we said, is lower than my Kedusha. So there's a distance, there's a gap, there's a separation between Hashem's Kedusha and our Kedusha. Therefore, since there's a difference, so the word Kedoshim to you will be referring to the crowns that they used to put on his children. It's included in the crowns that he placed at the head of his children. According to the explanation, that it is like me, not a question. It's like me, but rather like the Ma'or Naim said, that it means like the Alter Rebbe and the Torah and Parshas. It could be. You could have the Kedusha like me. So Kedusha, the Kedoshim to you, Kedusha, the Kaddish on. When it says the Kedusha of you shall be holy, that's the same Kedusha of Ki Kaddish Ani. It says Kedoshim to you, Ki Kaddish Ani. We said they're part of the same phrase. And that Ki Kaddish Ani, we said the Medrash says, what's that referring to? Shiat Torah Shenata La'atzmai. That is the crown that Hashem, that the king takes for himself. Therefore, what are the two crowns that he places on his children's head? That is the you shall be holy, you will be holy, you will make yourself holy, you will become holy. What it says in the Medrash, that the Kedusha of Kaddish Ani is the one that he took for himself. Though we're saying that according to the Alter Rebbe, this Kedusha is also coming down to the Yidden. So how do we say it's a crown that he took for himself? So he's saying, Yesh Loimar, we could say, Kiam Shachak, Shachak Kedusha, the Kaddish Ani, Baal Tshuva. The idea that we're saying that the Baal Tshuva has this capability to have and draw down, not just like a tzaddik that he's yearning to go out, but the Baal Tshuva actually is able to draw down this Kaddish Ani Kedusha. It's not a result of the Baal Tshuva's own being, but rather because through tshuva becomes revealed the fact that the root of the neshama is one with Hashem's essence. Therefore, we could say that the Baal Tshuva is the crown that the king placed on his head, because the Baal Tshuva being able to do what he does is because he's part of the king's head. Nimtza the Gamla Yeshna Israel, even after the Atara, the crown, is at the head of the Yid, the one that does tshuva. He has the kedusha of the Eibishter. It's still Iberoish Shalom Melech. It's not considered, it's not on the king's head. It is the same crown that's on the king's head. It wasn't given away to another, not even someone that's close to him, not someone that's a child, because it's completely one with Hashem, because the Baal Tshuva reaches in the very essence of Hashem, that he's one with him. So that is the crown that the Eibishter put on his own head. The Baal Tshuva and the Eibishter's head are all one. So therefore, it's the crown that the Eibishter puts on on his own head. Any questions before we go on to his book? Okay, let's try to finish the mimer. So now the Rebbe concludes that this idea about the Yachol Kamoini, the fact that we can be on the same level of the Kedusha of the Eibishter, is all the Baal Tshuva is only in Parshas Nitzavim explicitly. In our mimer, it's just hinted because of the psukim that he uses. But in Parshas Nitzavim mimer, he says it explicitly. How come? It says no, he's vav. Yesh loimer could say this idea that the drawing down of my holiness is beyond your holiness. Mevor lahed yibadrushim the Parsha Nitzavim. It's explained explicitly in the Mambarim of Parsha Nitzavim. Ma'ashe'enkim badrushim the Parsha same as opposed to Mambarim of our Parsha. But in Yezerak Beremes, this matter only comes in a hint, like we said before, because he is using a different pasuk than what the Medrash does, so that hints that the Yidden's crown is the one that the Eibishter wears. He says, what does say openly in the Mamarim, in Parshas Emor and the Yurim and so on, Shagili the Kaddish Ha'alaf Ba'adam Hu Ba'ifin Da'alam Al-Matal Al-Maila Sharoitz Lots and Tziyusim L'Kol B'Kaddish. What does it say openly? That the revelation of the first Kaddish in the person is in such a way of arising from below to above that he wants to leave his existence and become part of the holiness. Why is that so? He could be Parshas Atim Nitzavim Ma'yoyim, the Parsha of Atim Nitzavim Shekoydim Koydim Rosh Hashanah. Since we're reading it before Rosh Hashanah, it was Ban Shuvah, like we mentioned earlier. It's the time of Shuvah. Especially according to what's explained in the Torah. The Shuvah that it says that you are standing all together before Havaya. Before Havaya is similar to what we had in last week's Maimer, higher than Shem Havaya. We should call on Neshamas Misal Slamaylam and Kerchitz from all the Neshamas arise above in their source where they're hewn out from. Therefore, no Parshas Nitzavim, it's explained explicitly. That's what's being drawn down. That my holiness is beyond your holiness. Why? Because we're talking about this very high level attained through tshuva. Ki'aydeshu neshamas Yisrael, top of last page at base. Yisrael misal some perchayt from Yidden go up to their source where they're hewn out from. Yim shechlem gam atarish not lots. So therefore, they also have the crown that he took for himself. Kanal sipei, like we said in the earlier ois. On the other hand, Badrushin, the Parshas Shekoyim B'Sfiras Omer, in the Mamarim that we're reading in this period of time, Parshas Kedoshim, Parshas Emor, that we read during Sfiras Omer, to avoid the Sfiras Omer, he loy ba'ifin the diluk tshuva. The avoid of Sfiras Omer is not in the way of jumping, which is what tshuva is about. Ela adraba b'seder adroga, it's an organized fashion. Yom echad shnei yamim. We're going day by day. We're counting day 1, 2 days, and so on. Therefore, if you're going in the ordinary step-by-step level, then you're not going to have this kedushasi lamaylam kedushaskim yet. Or in Yizadam shachas kedushasi shalamaylam kedushaskim rak beremes. So this idea that we can draw down Hashem's kedusha, it's beyond our kedusha. It's only hinted to it because that's not really the avoid of our time. Yes, loymar. So then, why even hint at it? Don't even mention it at all. Don't even hint at it. Then we could say the reason why this is brought down in these Mamorim, at least hinted, is because Sfiras Omer is the idea of refining the animal soul. The idea of refining the animal soul is like tshuva. Just like tshuva, a person is overcoming the bad, the same thing. The idea of the animal soul is when he's refining it, he's leaving that negative place and returning to the Eibush. Yes, we could add another thing why we would read it at this time, or why the Alter Rebbe at least hint at it in this time. The Parshas Emor Shabbos Parshas Emor would read in the majority of years in the Shabbos at close proximity to Pesach Sheni. Like this year, it's Fridays, Pesach Sheni, and the Shabbos we read Parshas Emor. The Pesach Sheni, Pesach Sheni is the idea of tshuva. Baruch like to explain that length in a different place. The Pesach Rishon avoid tzaddik in the first Pesach, the avoid of tzaddik. Of the Pesach Sheni, avoid tshuva. The second Pesach is the avoid of tshuva, because tshuva is about it's never too late. That even if they were tummy shows the involvement with avedis and negativity. Even then, they could still bring the carbon Pesach. The Parshas Emor is therefore also normal with Parshas Emor. That it's hinted the matter of drawing down my holiness is beyond your holiness. should be like me, that we could have the Kedusha like the Eibusher in a statement form.